Good morning. Welcome to Uncle Benny's Creepy Campfire Stories for August 29th, 2019 AD. I'm your host, Uncle Benny. Today's a Thursday morning, and had a little respite from doing these videos. I'm trying to kind of limping along to the end. I was doing it to the 5th of September when I set for myself this project. And, well, sometimes I just got to step away from it, as I encourage you to do as well, because it's just nuts out there. And the mind control is strong, constant strong. It's a real battle. And if we're not framing the news, the Word of God, then we are going to be lost. I don't care who you think you are, how smart you are, how many degrees you have, or how long you've been around. You're no match. You're no match. So one thing we've got going on here is this proposed storm. You know, I'm a strict liability guy, and I suppose it's important to talk about things. But look at all these possibilities for the path, By the way, no music today. I'm doing this from a different setup, and I'm not even sure how it's going to come out. So, they're projecting, the hurricane's not here, by the way, but already you should be afraid, right? Fear, doom, right? So only really a couple things I want to talk about. Of course, every single one of these could be commentary. But let's get to this right here. First of all, we're being inundated every day, by the way, with these Democratic candidate debates. There's I don't know how many candidates there are, but there's a bunch of them. And what a clown show. Wow. Just the different kind of people. You've got the Mayor Pete guy who's a flaming homosexual married to a man, and that's really his purpose, in my opinion. That's why he's out there in front, normalizing that. I also could see, and we're going to find out probably in the next month or so, whether or not Hillary Clinton's going to be running again, which would be seems likely. And now the stage is set for her to win, And in this case, I can also see her choosing Mayor Pete, this 30-something-year-old guy who's, anyway, I've made enough comments about him before. I can see him being selected for vice presidential candidate. And when I say the stage is set, first of all, this Trump character's presidency has just been plagued. And I'm of the opinion that all the world's a stage, that there's nothing that happens in politics that isn't sort of planned out. I would say nothing, but because these people are not gods, make no mistake about it. But and the Lord's really in control. But these kind of things are scripted. Now, whether or not it's a couple of dudes sitting around in a darkened room with candles and hooded robes, chanting to Satan and coming up with these plans, or whether it's the Spirit that just works through people as a puppet, the demons and the fallen angels and the principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. I mean, that's what it is. And how given over to that some of these people are, how complicit they are knowingly, it's anybody's guess. Except for those who are blatantly Luciferians, and there's quite a number of those. When I say blatantly, I don't mean out publicly, but it's discernible. And all right, so it's a clown show, and we've got socialists and communists and you name it that are now up there acting as viable candidates to be president of this country, the United States, and it's a clown show. And I'm here to tell you that, the Lord holds them all in derision. He sits in the heaven and laughs. Why did the heathen rage, But I think in this case, Satan's laughing too at you because of, well, most of us are pretty stupid. And when I title this video, Amerikans' Fatal Problem, it's all in your head. Or that's the alternative title, or it's all in your head. Excuse me. This nation's biggest problem is mind control. Mind control. Social engineering. Scientific mind control. However you want to phrase it, it all has the same effect. And that is, from cradle till grave, you and I are swept up in a wave of programming that until we come out of it, until the Lord draws us out, until we can see it and start to actually, it takes work. You have to realize what's happening to you and fight back. But the majority of people are, this is again why majority of the people are helplessly influenced by mind control. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit in just the first thing I really want to talk about. But they're helpless, and they don't even know what they don't know where they're coming from and where they're going. And that's how we got here, right? That's how we got here. I say you, not me. Not me. I'm not here. I happen to live here, but I'm not in it. I am not in it like most of you are. I don't care the way most people care about this, because it's all passing away. It's all passing away. Now I have to live here, and I've got to cope with it, but I don't get caught up in it. And neither should you. What does it profit you to get caught up in it? You can't stop it. You can pray. You can speak truth like I'm trying to here. Speak truth to power. Pierce the darkness, however you want to look at that, or whatever opportunities you have or create. But the fact remains is that we are to be in the world and not of it, Bible say, right? There we go. That's exactly what I'm saying when I'm not in it like most people are. In the world but not of it. Now, that being said, that does not mean that I'm holier than anyone at all, because I'm only saved by grace through Christ. Yeah, I've got my own problems, and the problem we all have is sin, and that we don't seek after the Lord like we should. We're not as sanctified as we ought to be. We stumble and fall. The Bible says righteous man falleth 7 times and gets up again. So if you fall, if you screw up, get back up on your feet again and just keep on trucking. All right, so I want to talk about this in a minute. 27 burned to death at a strip club. Extreme acts of violence in Mexico on the rise. Now, there's a ton of stuff to talk about, but I really want to whip through this. Now, I was going to talk about, but then I just happened to see this raunchy headline. As I always say, I guess I have to say it again. First of all, the guy I'm about to talk about is a homosexual. The Drudge Report is supposed to be conservative news as grit, but this guy, Matt Drudge, always peppering homosexual perversion stuff in this rag, And when I first started this a couple months ago, doom dots, I go and I put a little red dot next to all the ones that were just doom and gloom, not even important really. It's just stuff to bring you down, tarnish your soul, pee in your cornflakes every morning. You know how many million of people are getting peed in their cornflakes? I could use a different word, might sound better. Well, in the past 24 hours, almost 30 million. Almost 1 billion people in the last month. 10 billion people in the last year. So this is important. This is an important mind control piece, part of the social engineering, whether he knows it or not. Started the Hollywood gossip column, still is. So this has it both. This has Hollywood and the perversion. Okay. Now I want to back up 1 second, and I was talking about the storm for a minute. That They're already talking odds. Likely, it might become a terrible hurricane that does, trillions of dollars in damage, bazillions, whatever. Excuse me, people, loss of life and property. But we've had it happen before where it just fizzles out. Now I'm here to tell you, and this is just an allusion to something you can go and find out for yourself. Hurricanes can be created, and hurricanes can be steered. And that's all you need to know about that. Now think it through. So, I created this document I'm working on. It's not done yet. And I don't know, I just titled it Nation Rising Against Nation because that was just one of the things. I think that was the title that just defaulted because it was the first words up here. So I've got a little table here that I would like to start posting. Like today we could post the article about the hurricanes in this, but I've got tsunami.gov, we've got USCGS earthquake deal. If we pop out to it, why is it not working? Just go to open hyperlink. So this will take you out to where, the National Hurricane Center, Pacific. It also shows the Atlantic, and I'm sorry, it is in the Atlantic. The Atlantic, the Pacific. It also shows the Pacific. Is what I'm trying to say. Cyclones and disturbances. Well, how about this? Why don't we just call it like Bible say, the sea and the waves roaring? Now, do you think about this verse whenever you hear the news on the hurricane? On a hurricane, any hurricane? Do you immediately think of Luke 21:25 or Matthew 24? Brothers and sisters, we should be thinking that every time. Now, I'm not going to school you here, and because the unbelief would have you believe that, it's always been this way. No. We have not always been seeding hurricanes, creating these distractions, diversions, money scams through the weather. Weather's been weaponized. Do you know that the tsunami that wiped out Fukushima and caused that disaster, and just it's unbelievable what happened? I think it was 2014? At any rate, do you know the ideas of how that could happen? What about setting off massive explosions in the ocean down, where they know there's strategic places, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, just some stuff to think about, that these are the times we need to be quickened and looking up, for our redemption draweth nigh, as it say in Bible and old time language. And hey, I lose sight of that. I lose sight of it. But I'm trying not to. I'm working diligently to try to not lose sight of that, because everything rides upon it. That's what it's all going towards, right? So when I say it, I mean your life. Let's just read a few of these. I haven't finished this at all, and it'd be cool if this was a website and stuff that was updated on every day. But here we've got nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom, distress of nations with perplexity. I did post one article in here, but why don't you see what happens here? So I go to the Global Conflict Tracker. Did you even know this site existed? Here it is. Last updated yesterday, and actually is from a wicked organization, Council on Foreign Relations. You can research that. These are your people who are working towards a single world government. Here's their global conflicts. The red dots mean they're worsening. The orange mean they're so we got civil war in Libya, Boko Haram in Nigeria. What do we got down here in Belize? Venezuela. Instability. Criminal violence in Mexico. That just must have popped up yesterday, because that's one of the things we're going to talk about. Let's see here. Where's this? Congo? Let's see. Yeah, violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Look, from east to west and west to east, north to south, except for more uninhabited areas, there is terrible conflicts going on, more or less every day. I don't see this clearing up. Do you? Okay. There's always something going on. So there you go. There's that. There's a hurricane site. So and combining that with the latest headlines, that's quite a powerful little document. Because I could just pop in every single day, and I'm going to continue to do this for myself, I believe. I could just pop in the articles, just lift them out of like the Drudge Report and pop in the links. And maybe I'll publish it. I don't know, but are you going to want to read it every day, or will your eyes gloss over? I know for me, my eyes can gloss over. You get used to it. I had a watch that stopped. It's a gift to me. It was a beautiful watch. I'm not really a watch wearer. But at the time, this is many years ago, at the time, it's a nice watch, and it looked nice, and it was part of my, I guess you could say, uniform, in a sense. Completed my, it was part of how I dressed and for my job. Excuse me. And the watch stopped. Battery died or something. And I decided, I'm not going to fix it. Because what time is it? It's like a minute till midnight. And I'm speaking on a end of the world type of a situation. Like we're approaching the times where, look, Nathaniel, I believe, was under the fig tree. I think literally and figuratively, because that was an expression meaning like studying the scriptures. So when the master said to him that, behold, an Israelite indeed, and I saw you yet while you were under the fig tree, meaning he saw him looking for the Lord, like seeking. When he was eager, he was looking up essentially for that day. They were wanting deliverance. They were expecting the Messiah to come. And are we? We should be. So anyway, minute till midnight. So anyway, there you go. That's pretty neat. All right, so let's just talk about this guy. I'm even going to go ahead and close the Drudge Report just because, again, I'm concerned for the stream here. Joel Schumacher estimates he's had up to 20,000 sexual partners. Now, this was out of an interview he did. Out of all the things he said, that's what they made a whole article about. Now, is this something people ought to be jealous of? Is this something to brag about? He was bragging, he was boasting in a sense. But let's talk about who this man is. You know him. You don't know him? Well, you do, and you don't know that you know him. And that's how it works, okay? This guy, homosexual, 79 years old, and he's got box office smash hits going back, years, right? St. Elmo's Fire, Batman Forever, The Lost Boys. So he gave a wide-ranging interview. So what I'm trying to say is that this was probably a lengthy interview with lots of topics, and this is the one that they're putting in your face. Remember, that's important. That's what we're talking about, the Drudge Report. Look how they're putting this in your face. Normalizing it. Repeat a lie often enough, it becomes truth. Well, when you're constantly hearing about gay marriage and homosexuals and transgenderism and all these kinds of things, you're going to get a distorted view. You're going to get numb to it. That's just the way it is. It's a defense mechanism in a lot of ways because you just can't process it all. And the powers that should be know that. So he believes he's had like 20 to 30,000 men. He's a man. He's been with men having gay sex. Yeah, I didn't like talking about it Thursday morning. It's kind of revolting. Not kind of, it is. It's disgusting. So a lot of gay people are getting married, they're adopting, or they're having children. Okay, now just listen to this. Listen to how this guy is. There wasn't any of that when I was young. You went into a gay bar and there were 200 men in there, and you said, okay, who wants to have a little house with a white picket fence and a dog and a child, and raise your hands? Or, who wants to get laid tonight? The concept of a lovely suburban life or raising children was not a high concept. Well, do you think it still really is? Do you think all of a sudden homosexuals have changed and they want to have normal be married and have children because that's what they intrinsically want, that's who they are? Or is there an agenda? Is it about destroying the normal families? Is it about coming against biblical worldviews to the point, like in Canada, my understanding is that if you even read or preach what the Bible says about homosexuality being a sin, it's hate speech, and you could go to jail. I don't know how many have been hauled out. But we had a situation in Texas where the mayor, I'm just vaguely remembering. Again, this is unscripted. This is live.net. Seems like there was a mayor or somebody who wanted to get transcripts of all the sermons of the preachers in one of the big cities in Texas. I don't remember which one. Of course, that got, quashed, but that's where it's going. Sometimes we'll get a glimpse of what, people overplay their hand. People open their mouth and what's in their heart comes out. And they are relentless and they won't give up because what's driving them is an ancient and eternal force. Well, I shouldn't say eternal. An ancient force that's been around since before you and I were here. It's been since the beginning. Satanic. It's Satan. It's Lucifer. And so let's just a little further here. Let's look at who is this guy? Joel Schumacher. Okay, Joel's a Hebrew name, isn't it? Schumacher sounds German. American filmmaker. So let's see. St. Elmo's Fire, The Lost Boys, Flatliners, John Grisham Adaptations of The Client, A Time to Kill, Falling Down, 8mm, Palme d'Or, Golden Bear. I don't know some of these. I've seen Falling Down. I don't know which of these. I probably saw St. Elmo's Fire years ago. He's done the Batman series, or he's doing the next ones or something. Oh no, he has directed Batman films. Phantom of the Opera, House of Cards, Tigerland. He's cast young actors: Colin Farrell, Kiefer Sutherland, Matthew McConaughey. Well, think about this. This guy has made his way into your life. He was born in New York City, son of Marion Cantor and Francis Schumacher. His mother was a Swedish Jew, and his father was a Baptist from Knoxville, Tennessee, who died when he was 4 years old. So effectually, he didn't grow up with his Baptist father, but he did grow up with his Jewish mother. Now, from what I understand, that it really is down to if the mother's Jewish or whether someone calls himself a Jew or not. And when I say Jew, do I mean a practicing Orthodox, religious? What's this guy? We'll find out in a minute some of his opinions on God here, but nevertheless, by virtue of the fact, I don't know if he ever went around and said, what's your religion? Well, I was raised Jewish, or I'm Jewish, Anyway, he's out in Hollywood, right? It's Jewish run. He's got entrance. Gives you entrance. Where in the spectrum he is, I don't know. But nevertheless, there's something to this. Now, remember, when I say Jew and I'm referring to it in this context, I mean Talmudists, okay? The Talmudic Jews, the ones who, they don't read the Torah, study the Torah, it's the Talmud, and all the perversions that are in there. That's why they're doing what they're doing. It's Satanism, really. It's worshiping Baal. It's all kinds of things, right? It's all, they may have different names, but it's a rose by any other name, is it not still a rose, right? Think about that, okay? So the Brat Pack, we've heard about Brat Pack. John Grisham writes a lot of novels. People are, it's pop culture stuff in a lot of ways. So I'm not going to read all his, let's see. Joel, he directed 2 episodes of House of Cards, which I've never seen, but I've heard of. So he's been openly gay throughout most of his career. And this is what's important. This fact has been purposefully reflected as a statement in many of his films. And that's how it's done, son. Just here a little, there a little. Line upon line. The satanic practice is to pervert what are legitimate ways. So, you know, you've heard it said you cook a frog just 1 degree at a time. You put him in the water, he won't jump out if it goes up slowly. And it's the same thing going on here. When asked by the BBC if he believed in God, Schumacher said, I'm sort of in that school of that quote from Hamlet. There's more in heaven and earth, Horatio. If you live long enough, you'll definitely get to understand the universe is a profound mystery and I didn't create it. Well, that's good he's got a degree of humility. We're on this mud ball rolling around and I don't know where we are and nobody knows where we are. Well, brothers and sisters, he basically just said, I'm lost. And why is that important? Because we all need to be saved. We all need to be found. All of us. Otherwise, that's really pretty spot on. We're all on a mud ball rolling around, hurtling through space, that a lot of them like to say we are. And we don't know where we are, and nobody knows where we are. And that means you don't know where you're going. Okay? Well, we can have blessed assurance of knowing where we're going, of knowing where we are in the stream of time. Anyway, he goes on to say, I definitely believe that I'm not the highest form of intelligence in the universe, but I don't like to use the word God because it's so overused in the U.S., not so much in Europe, but it's become politicized and has this ugly meaning now. Well, that's sad, right? So his association, when he hears the word God, he doesn't even use it because it means something ugly. Well, I think a lot of us will have some degree of that at some point, and maybe even work to that, you know, we understand God as being this vindictive person and killed all the Old Testament is just full of violence and blood and killing men, women, and children and wiping them out. Well, if you understand, I've recommended the book Genesis 6 Conspiracy. If you there's other information as well, but if we understood why when they went into the land and they came back and reported that we were as grasshoppers because of the giants. So we're talking about Nephilim. We're talking about fallen angels that captured human women because God created women beautiful, and these fallen angels that left heaven with Lucifer saw them and took them and made new creatures with them, abominations really. Just where the giants came from, and I believe even, well, I'm not going to go into all that. I'll get on a tangent. Like asking someone if they believe in God has become an attack. If you don't believe in Jesus, you're not one of us. So immediately he goes for marginalizing Christians as being judgmental, rejected. You know, now we're to judge sin. We can say something's wrong, but, you know, I don't judge this guy. At 79, and he's talking like this, I think, you know, anything can happen. But he needs salvation. Excuse me. I loathe the use of God or any kind of spirituality as a form of discrimination or separation because that's a total misuse of it. So, subtext, context, and non-text. I talk about that all the time. Made up the word non-text. I'm kind of proud of that. It's kind of cool. Non-text. What don't they say? Well, you put this all together. Well, I shouldn't say proud of that. I like when I like to be creative, and it's kind of fun. I get a kick out of it. So he loathes the use of God as a form of discrimination, but he just talked about if you don't believe in Jesus, you're not one of us. So what's he really saying? Subtext is Christians are discriminatory and for disunity. They misuse God, misuse the word. You know, who's this guy? He's a guy who says he slept. He'd go to a gay bar with 200 men and trying to have gay sex. That was his lifestyle. And he believes, at 79, he still believes you're on a mud ball rolling around. Don't know where we are, and nobody knows where we are. Well, there you go. So what's this important? First of all, Matt Drudge makes this an important story. Secondly, here you go. This guy has been in your living room. This guy has been sending messages to your precious children. This guy has been influencing your life on some degree and level. All your life, mostly, or likely. And You think he's the only one? Your music videos, he's been involved with NXS, Lenny Kravitz, Seal, Smashing Pumpkins, Bush, The Killing Floor. Let's see, costume designer, production engineer. So he's been involved with all these actors and actresses that you know and familiar with. Nicolas Cage, Jim Carrey, Colin Farrell. So I don't know half of these people, but I don't watch this stuff anymore. Nicole Kidman. Um, I don't know. Just you can see Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah, a lot of them I don't recognize, but these people have been in your living room. Maybe you've gone and spent money at the theater to entertain you and your wife, or you and a date. Now think about that. Do you know where you are and where you're going? Really? When it wasn't like I was sitting around when I was watching St. Elmo's Fire and realizing all this is going on or knowing who was behind it. But we need to know who's behind this mess in Hollywood and what they're doing. All right, that's enough of that. Okay, here's the thing on the hurricane. So, going along. Well, I kind of want to quit. I need to get going, but I looked up Pew Research what percentage of Mexican was Roman Catholic, and this article is on an aspect of that, but I was looking for a figure and I found it that 81% of Mexicans reportedly are Roman Catholic. Now, what does that mean? Well, looks like I got to go back. I think I accidentally closed an article. I got to go to the. So here's the Pew Research, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to pull up the article of the violence and what happened. It's just horrible. Extreme acts of violence in Mexico are on the rise. 27 burned to death at a strip club. Well, first blush, it sounds like the place burned down. Nope. In fact, I thought these were two separate stories. I thought there was a fire, and then I thought there was just, because it was Mexican news, there was issue about, maybe there was beheadings and all this stuff that we hear about with the cartels. Excuse me. Mexico City, this is where it's from. I don't think this is where it happened. The assailants locked the doors and emergency exit, then doused the strip club with gasoline and set it on fire. The inferno engulfed the White Horse Bar in southern Mexico on Tuesday night, killing 27 people and injuring more than a dozen others. Photos taken after the flames were extinguished showed the bodies of semi-nude women strewn amidst charred bar stools. Happened in the Gulf Coast city of Coatzacoalcos, sounds like Quetzalcoatl, was probably an act of retaliation after the owner refused to let a gang sell drugs there. The owner was kidnapped before the bar was set ablaze. So this 8 years to the day after a similar fire at a casino in the northern city of Monterrey killed 52 people, and it raised concerns that Mexico's criminal groups may be returning to the kind of spectacular acts of violence that characterized earlier periods of insecurity here. Well, I'm going to have to wrap this up. This is actually the story I wanted to get into, but things take their course, okay? I need to get going. The thing is, what's this have to do with Roman Catholicism? Well, Roman Catholicism is not Christianity. Just flat out, it's not. Now, I have to do some of your thinking for you because I know there are those who would be like, oh, you can't judge those people. I'm not saying there aren't Roman Catholics that aren't true believers or Christians are saved. But I'll tell you what, if they read their Bible, they'll come out of that church. They'll pop right out. They start reading the Bible, they'll come right out. What I mean is that Roman Catholicism is not Christianity, and it's the one. It's the one of the big black marks when people make cast aspersions on Christianity about how more people, quote, you've seen it, more people are killed in the name of religion. Well, right, and guess who that's due to? Right, the Holy Roman Empire, Roman Catholicism. Okay, Crusades. Well, there's issues around the Crusades had to do with driving back the Moorish invaders, but a real Christian is not out invading countries or killing people. They're more likely to be the martyrs, the ones who turn the other cheek, or who are actually stand for their beliefs and then they're killed. They aren't out killing people. So it's just a contradiction. It's misdirection. Anyway, so the point is 81% of Mexico, which you would think is very religious, moral people, but is the Spirit of God there? Now, yes, these are some of the worst of the worst, but where are they coming from? We don't have this exactly here that we know of. And when I say that we know of, because there are those, I believe, in power who commit horrible things under the guise of something else. We talk about that. But you've got 27 people. Can you imagine the horror? Yeah, what kind of people were they? They were in a bar, in a strip club. But nevertheless, they're people that Christ died for, he loved. And they lost their lives just 2 nights ago in a horrible way that, we're told. And where am I going with this? Well, you're letting these people into this country due to mind control. And you're calling them illegal immigrants. And this is the kind of insanity that you have those Democrats up there, the clown show. Every single one of them is for this. They're for these kind of people who would lock everyone in a room and burn it down with gasoline, killing them in terrible horror and terror. And they want to bring that here. Now, of course, they would say no, but you know what I mean? It's like, really, you just basically naturalize everyone. Do you have any gang people are here? Felons and the worst of the worst who are here because of the way that things are being handled. And I mentioned earlier that it's set up now for Hillary Clinton could likely win. Why? Well, this whole bum rush of the border. Because why? Going to build a wall. And then going on now over 2.5 years, the dude has not built hardly 100 feet of it. Well, it's not his fault. It's a Democrat. I keep saying it. He could send the National Guard down there, stop it immediately. It would be done. There would be no more of this. I'm not saying declare war on Mexico, but about as close as you can get is kind of what needs to happen, because they're allowing it too. It's coming from one side, right? Why aren't they stopping their people, or the people that are coming from even south of Mexico, from coming up here? And not just south of Mexico, they're coming from all over. Middle East, Africa. And is it because we're not a nation of immigrants? No, because we're not a nation of free-for-all and lawlessness. And if you're liberal, you're for it. You are for and complicit, and I believe you share guilt when these things happen. You share the guilt. You're voting for this. What's it have to do with Roman Catholicism? How many of your congressmen, representatives are in bed with the Pope? That they're dual citizens, just like I pointed out. How many of our in key positions? How many of our representatives, congressmen, also people that are appointed in the War Department, various places, policy, that are dual citizens with Israel? What's the same thing? The Vatican is a nation state. Yeah, it's true. Go look it up. And its dictator is the Pope. And you've got people that have conflicting interests. See how that works? Anyway, it used to be a time in this nation you couldn't hold office if you were Roman Catholic. The nation was started by Protestants. Started because of Protestantism, really. By and large, I mean, you get into the deists and the Masons and all those kind of things, but nevertheless, the nation had begun, the way I understand it, because people wanted religious freedom. Freedom from the Pope. Freedom from the King of England. Anyway, okay, I'm getting a little unfocused here, and I need to get going. But when we read the news, we need to think of these things. And I kind of lost my. Let's see if I've still got it. Here. Yeah. So I want to read the verses I pulled out for today. Unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. Well, do you think of these unjust things as abominable? Now, as to all these young men, there may have been some women, but likely committed this arson and this murder. Excuse me. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down to the pit. We'll find all precious substance. We'll fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood. They have no compunction about it. They're quick to do it. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. It's said that when these people that took these lives really took their own life, and likely eternal life as well is out of their reach. They're that hardened. I don't know, but the Lord is He's mighty and He can save any, even murderers. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which takes away the life of the owners thereof. Now you've heard it said, money is the root of all evil. Well, that's not true. It's the love of money. It's the root of all evil. And you can tie this back to money. They were promoting their business by sending a message, by getting revenge, allegedly of burning the guy who ran the strip bar didn't want him dealing drugs. I'm not sure if I read that part or not. Probably an act of retaliation that the bar owner refused to let a gang sell drugs there. Now, I don't know if this governor had knowledge about what's going on in the city or this bar, but the odds are high, is what he's saying. The odds are high. That's why it happened, because that's what they do. So I also want to read this. The transgression of the wicked says within his heart that there is no fear of God before his eyes. Well, that's our Schumacher guy that I was talking about. And this was for the, related to these young people who are growing up in a culture that has the appearance of religion, but no spirit of God. No, I'm not saying none, okay? But by and large, that it's empty. There's a lot of paganism mixed in with that, with Catholicism in general. But within that culture, just look at their celebrations like Day of the Dead and things like that. So, all right, well, that wraps it up. Coming up on 9:30, I got to roll out. And I wanted to cover this more, but some things to think about. Make a great day.